Chapter 2. What are the Summer Olympics? The modern games begin the late 1800s. In the 1870s, archaeologists came to Olympia to learn more about ancient Greece and the Olympics. Archaeologists dig up buried objects to find out about the past. The archaeologists in Olympia found bits of old vases and statues. These objects provided clues about the Greeks' way of life and its focus on having a strong mind in a strong body. News of their findings spread. Many people already knew about the ancient Olympics, but the dig spurred renewed interest in the games. So in 1870, archaeologists dug up Olympia artifacts. Dug up Olympic artifacts. Oh my gosh, you guys. Okay. A teacher from France named Pierre de Coubertin was fascinated by this mind-body connection. He thought sports contests could help young people become better students. His goal was to hold the Olympic Games again, with athletes from all over the world competing. Who is this, Chloe? Pierre de Coubertin from France, and he was a teacher, and he thinks the students would benefit from sports. Bring back the Olympics! And Sam really wants to have a mustache like him. In 1894, Coubertin met with representatives from many countries in Paris, France. They decided the Olympics would be held every 4 years, each time in a different country. The first would take place in Athens, Greece, not far from Olympia. 2 years later, about 1,500 years after the last Olympics, the modern games began. That March, the U.S. team of 14 men sailed for Greece. So they started to dig up the artifacts in 1870. Pierre de Coubertin said, "Bring back the Olympics." In 1894, Olympics return, and they happen every 4 years. Yes. In 1896, they're going to have the Olympic Games in Athens. USA, 14 men sailed to Greece. It took 2 weeks. There were no events for women at all. No women allowed. It took more than 2 weeks by ship and train for the Americans to arrive in Athens. They joined more than 200 athletes from 13 countries, England, France, and Germany among them. To welcome the athletes, there was a special banquet, a parade, and dancing and singing in the streets. Early the next morning, crowds flocked to the stadium, which was built from ancient ruins. It connected the new to the old. The games began, like the ancient ones, with a sprint. And what do we know about the sprint? It started because who held their... Hercules held his breath. The marathon, a long-distance foot race, was the final track event. The Greeks hadn't won a race yet. They wanted this win badly. 17 runners stood at the starting line in the city of Marathon. At 2 p.m., the starting gun fired. A French runner sprinted into the lead. The roads were hot and dusty. Doctors followed in carts. At the halfway mark, the French runner held a long lead, but then the course went uphill. The runner slowed down and finally stopped. An Australian took the lead. A bicyclist was sent ahead to announce his win. But one Greek runner, Spirion Lewis, was gaining ground. He closed the gap. "Helene, Helene!" shouted the Greek fans, meaning, "A Greek, a Greek!" Lewis ran even harder. The Australian fell to the ground. Finally, Lewis entered the stadium. A band followed on horseback. The king and queen of Greece and 70,000 others cheered as he crossed the finish line. Did he go on for further fame? No. Legend says Spirion Lewis never ran again. Wow. Fun fact, The marathon. According to legend, a Greek soldier fought in a battle in the town of Marathon. After racing 25 miles to Athens to announce the victory, he collapsed and died. At the first modern Olympics, the longest race followed the ancient soldier's route. A few years later, the race was extended. Today, a full marathon is always 26.2 miles. So, more than 200 athletes competed from other countries. We have the marathon, started in the city of Marathon, ran uphill, finished Spirion Lewis, a Greek, he won. And the story about Marathon, how we get that name, is because a soldier fought and won. In Marathon, he ran 25 miles to relay the message that there was victory, and then he died. Swimming events took place next. There was no Olympic pool. Oh, man. The men headed out to sea. Hollow pumpkins floated in the chilly, choppy water to mark the finish line. The water was so cold that at the 100-meter race, one American supposedly jumped in and shouted, "I'm freezing!" Then climbed right back in the boat. For the 1,200-meter race, almost 3/4 of a mile, swimmers swam to shore from boats. Many swimmers struggled. Some gave up. The winner, Hungarian Alfred Hayes, finished in 18 minutes 22.2 seconds, just happy to be alive. Founder Pierre de Coubertin was pleased with the games. He was sure the Olympics would only get better after this. Instead, they almost fell apart. Okay, let's review. In the 1870s, archaeologists dug up Olympic artifacts, and a teacher from France, Pierre de Coubertin, thought students would benefit from the sports, and he said, bring back the Olympics. They're important. He got a group together from other countries, and in 1894, they decided the Olympics would return every 4 years. In 1896, the Olympics were in Athens. 14 men from the United States sailed across to Greece, and it took more than 2 weeks. Women were not allowed to compete. More than 200 athletes from other countries came together, and they did a lot of races. There was a marathon. It started in the city of Marathon, ran, then it went uphill, and then they finished. Spirion Lewis, a Greek, he won. They were so excited. And he didn't do anything. He didn't run again. He didn't do it again. It was too much. Then Marathon comes from a soldier who fought and won at Marathon, the city of Marathon, and he ran 25 miles to relay victory, victory, and then he died. So the marathon is in honor of the soldier and the fight. The swimming event, you guys, was it in a pool? No, it was in the cold, freezing ocean. There were hollowed pumpkins at the finish line. Most said, it's too cold. And they gave up, went back in the boat, didn't even get in the water.